Okay, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, Parish Construction and Roofing. Of course, if you need an orthopedist, go to Brock. Need a roof? Call Parish. All right, y'all. How about that news on Monday? Paul Mainieri back in the game, set to be the new head coach at South Carolina. We are expecting a formal announcement from South Carolina today on Tuesday. Not the news that I expected, certainly, in this South Carolina search. Carolina hired Mark Kingston, or I should say fired Mark Kingston after 7 years. And Kingston had a pretty good run. In 7 years. Obviously, one of those years was the COVID year. So, really, out of the 6 seasons, made the NCAA tournament 4 out of the 6 years, advanced to supers twice, never made it to Omaha. So, this is the really complex part for Mainieri is, he's taken a job that the the athletic department, the fan base, and of course Ray Tanner is the national champion baseball coach, is the athletic director at South Carolina. There's an expectation there of winning championships. And I don't know that that's really possible at South Carolina. Now, I say that, and Kentucky just advanced to the College World Series for the first time in program history. So certainly it's possible. You get the right guy in there, the right team roster of guys, you obviously can make it work in baseball. But South Carolina isn't the job today that it was a dozen years ago when Ray Tanner was there and then left. Their stadium, which at the time was right there alongside the box as the preeminent facilities in college baseball, it's just not anymore. Everybody, similar to the box, everybody's passed it up. Florida and Kentucky have built brand new stadiums. Mississippi State, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Bama have all done gut renovations of their stadium. A&M has a beautiful ballpark. They're talking about renovating it or building a new one. It's so facilities are one. They don't have a great talent base there in South Carolina. So it's that's a challenging job. Like, if it were Kentucky, it would be different because, man, like they may build a statue of Nick Mingione. Keeps getting him in the postseason, first trip to Omaha. Like it's levels of success they've never experienced before. That's not the case at South Carolina. So this is a tough job that Paul's taken. They'll fire you at South Carolina. That's not the case everywhere because they're just not as invested everywhere. But they are at South Carolina, and they expect to win because they've won before. So I think he's taken a difficult job. Now, if you're South Carolina, you're hiring a coach that's in every Hall of Fame. He's in the National Collegiate Baseball Writers Association Hall of Fame. He's in the College Baseball Hall of Fame. Paul Mainieri's in darn near every Hall of Fame you can imagine. Won a national championship. Made 5 trips to Omaha with LSU. Got Notre Dame to the College World Series as well. So, I don't know that Carolina could have done much better in terms of skins on the wall, right? 6 trips to Omaha, a national championship, a College World Series runner-up. The one of only 2 programs ever to be a national seed 6 consecutive years. Stanford did it, and LSU did it under Mainieri. So, I mean, he is as accomplished a coach as they could possibly hire. Mainieri's 66 years old, so there's a fair question to say how much longer does he want to coach? And he'll be 67 in August, by the way. So, I don't know. I don't know how much longer Paul may want to coach, but clearly he had the itch. He was considered for the Miami job. He was considered for the Notre Dame job a couple of years ago when Link Jarrett left for Florida State. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear Coach wanted to get back in the game. But we'll see, man. We'll see how this goes with Paul Mainieri, jumping back in, not only back into coaching, but back into the SEC in a year where Texas and Oklahoma are coming into the league. He's gonna have a big challenge on his hand, man. They're in Columbia, so we'll see. The other bit of news that's relevant here, of course, is one of the reports that he's taken Terry Rooney with him. Now, Terry Rooney was an assistant on Paul's staff at LSU in 07 and 08, his first 2 years in Baton Rouge. And then Terry Rooney got the head coaching job at Central Florida. Took a path around college baseball a little bit. Jay hired him back at LSU this past year in a player development role, off-field role, with the idea that when a spot came open, Rooney would move into an on-field role at LSU. Well, Paul Mainieri reportedly is hiring Terry Rooney to be his pitching coach at South Carolina. So Rooney's a great recruiter, and Paul needs that because I think, especially late in his career, it's just evident that wasn't a strength of his or something he cared to do a ton of. And that was Nolan Cain's job. I mean, Nolan was the one who was at all the showcases, who was the one, meeting with the kids. Paul met a lot of the recruits when they came to campus. So, you get a guy like Rooney, who's a really good recruiter, and that fills that gap, that void, so to speak. So, yeah, man, this will be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this goes. Definitely not one I was expecting to hear yesterday when I picked my head up off the pillow. All right, let's say some good morning, y'all. I do have a meeting downtown at 8:30, so I got only about 20 minutes here. So let's blow and go and get some questions and comments. Hey, Brian Wynn, Weston Weaver, Charlie Cavell, good morning, y'all. Monty Tall, good morning. So Mainieri is taking an LSU staffer with him. Yeah, sorry, just talked about that. That's Terry Rooney. Gorilla, good morning. Jesse Brown, love your Bama is burning pit. We did another Bama is burning yesterday for those that missed it. It was in beginning of hour 2 of AFR yesterday. And I'm going to keep doing it because every time I do, the Bama people just melt. And it is so funny to watch them scurry and squirm and get angry. So I'm just going to keep doing it. Jason H., good morning, Uncle Scone. Charlie, how surprising is that? Ray Tanner hiring Paul Mainieri. Interesting to say the least. It's an interesting hire. I don't mean to draw the exact parallel, but, like when Kansas hired Les Miles or, whenever you see very, there was time. And I think South Carolina baseball is better than Kansas football. Remember Larry Coker, who won a national championship in Miami and got hired at UTSA. And did well initially, and then struggled later. So I'll be very interested to see how Paul does up there, and I'll be pulling for him, except when they play LSU. I've told you all many times, man. I have a great affinity for Paul Mainieri. My first year covering LSU was his first year as the coach, the baseball coach back in 2007. So I covered all 15 seasons that he was the coach at LSU. He was great to me. He was accommodating and friendly and candid, and I respect that very much. And then just on a personal level, was always very kind to me and my family. And so I have nothing but good things to say about Paul Mainieri as a man. A couple of years ago, there was a cool event at what many of you might have heard me talk about, the Kelly Richmond Foundation. And every year, I was asked to MC that, and Paul and Karen were always the guest of honor. And look, I MC a lot of events. I mean, sometimes we joke like that's my second career. I mean, I don't make any money doing it. You're not supposed to. I'm not saying I should. I mean, you volunteer your time and you should be happy to do that. And I am. But I get asked to do that a lot just because of visibility and I'm on a microphone all the time. And I see a lot of events where dignitaries come late, leave early, they slide in to do their wave and handshake, and then they sneak out the side door. Every year at the Kelly Richmond Gala, Karen and Paul were some of the first ones there, and they were there to the very end. And that is, it's very admirable. So anyway, I'm pulling for him, man. I will pull for Paul Mainieri and hope that he does great. Let's see. Get me through me. Matthew, you know what, South Carolina, I have no grudge against you for Mainieri. I'm happy for him and you, but I'll never forgive you for taking Paul Dietzel. Okay. Well, he didn't South Carolina didn't take Paul Dietzel. That's almost like a misnomer, like with the Saban thing. Saban didn't leave LSU for Alabama, and Paul Dietzel didn't leave LSU for South Carolina. Paul Dietzel left LSU for Army, which was a better job at the time. Even though he had won a national title here, that was Army in their heyday. So Army, he went to Army, and then after he got fired at Army, he went to South Carolina, where he became the coach in the AD. So not exactly what and what. Christopher Slim, yeah, so that was the report yesterday. Is Terry Rooney's going with him. Seems like USC isn't thinking long-term hiring Paul. Yeah, Brian, I mean, I think it's probably one of those things where can you get 5 years out of Mainieri, and can he build you back up to a contender? I'm sure that's what he's thinking. And then hand it off to someone in a better spot than he got it in. Jason H. Joey B. Do you think Mainieri will try to get Nolan Cain to join him in South Carolina? That would be interesting, but I don't think Nolan Cain would leave. I mean, Cain's at A&M. He's Schlossnagel's recruiting coordinator. I mean, A&M's in the College World Series. A&M could certainly pay. And I don't think that they're in a position where they're going to lose an assistant coach for a lateral move within the conference. If Nolan leaves, when Nolan leaves A&M, I think it's going to be for a head coaching job. I mean, that's I think most coaches' ambition. I know it's Nolan's ambition. And so if he gets an opportunity to go be a head coach, I think that's where he leaves A&M. I don't think he leaves A&M for South Carolina. Vincent, morning, Matt. Do you know anything about Texas trying to get Jay Johnson? I do, actually. I think Texas over the weekend and last week reached out to its primary list of candidates, which did include Jay Johnson, and it was 4 people. They all rebuffed Texas, as you would expect they would. And Texas has moved on, and I'm told they're going to hire Mark Wazakowski, who's the coach at Oregon. So I told y'all that over the weekend. Earmark it, book it. If I'm wrong, come point and laugh at me. But, yeah, I mean, I think Texas – look, it's one of those things where you have – like, you make somebody tell you no. And so, names I heard were Schlossnagel, Tony Vitello, Eric Bakich from Clemson, who was the coach at Michigan that got them to the CWS finals, and then Jay. And all 4 said thanks, but no thanks. And I'm told that Texas is going to hire Mark Wazakowski, and it's going to be a hire thing. Like, they're going to fire David Pierce and immediately turn around and hire Wazakowski. Like, it's not going to be, we're firing you and then beginning our search. They want to be able to have that very quick transition. So we'll see if it plays out that way, but that's what I was told this weekend. Caleb, morning, Matt. Curious on portal pitchers Jay might go after, considering all the transfers, any top guys available. Not yet. So I'm not sure yet. We'll see. I got one yesterday from South Florida. Eli, good morning. Hindsight's 2020. Kind of disappointing that Tajay Spears averaged 7 yards a carry last year. The Saints took Miller 9 spots ahead. Yeah, in fairness, though, Eli, Kendre Miller was dealing with with injury for a chunk of the season. But yeah, there were a lot of people who loved Tajay Spears. I mean, you saw him at Tulane. He was a really talented guy. He was in your backyard. Yeah, I get it. Patrick, crazy Mainieri got hired, poached some of our staff too. How? Well, first of all, I don't think it's crazy that he took Terry Rooney. I mean, it's an opportunity for Terry Rooney to go be an on-field assistant. So Rooney was think of the way Rooney's role as the player development director at LSU, kind of as an analyst role. And now he got hired to be a coordinator. It's like if you're an analyst at one school and then a Power 5 school hires you to be their offensive coordinator. That's basically like what happened with Terry Rooney. He was a off-field staffer at LSU on Jay's staff, and now Paul's hiring him to be his pitching coach. So that makes a lot of sense. And I get what Ray Tanner's doing. I mean, you went the other route with Mark Kingston. You tried to get the up and coming assistant, and it didn't work. So generally, when you make a hire that doesn't work, you go the opposite direction. So you went from the young up and comer to a veteran who is very accomplished. I mean, Paul is a notable hire. And the thing about Paul Mainieri, man, is like his floor was always very high. Like, I know the expectation at LSU is winning national championships, and that was Paul's expectation too. I mean, I was emceeing the thing for the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame a few months ago. It was their night of champions, and Skip, Paul, Jay Johnson, Mike Bianco were all on the stage there, along with Dylan Cruz, Roger Clemens, and Ben McDonald were all on the stage. And Paul very candidly told the whole crowd there, so not like breaking any news. He said, he always thought he would win 3 at LSU. And boy, he had chances. I mean, they were in the finals in 17. I mean, the 13 and 15 teams were some of the best teams LSU ever had. They just ran into some bad luck in Omaha, which happens in that tournament. So, I mean, that, of course, that's the expectation. But Paul also was always in the mix. Kerry, have you seen FSU's turquoise unis? I have not. Thank goodness I haven't. Cajun Country, good morning. Have a great day. Tim Gotro, Charlie Cavell, Mingione's a good dude. Seems like it. I don't know Nick Mingione at all. I've had him on my show, but other than just interviewing him on a 10-minute phone call, I don't know him at all. Ken Gode, morning, Matt. Why are you sorry to hear about Mainieri? H. Willie, morning, Matt. Does the circumstances in Mainieri hire remind you of when Pat Casey was an option for LSU a couple years back? Yeah. Yeah. I think, you're swinging for the fences and trying to land a big fish. And I mean, Paul Mainieri is a Hall of Fame coach. He's a national championship winning coach. I mean, how many national championship winning coaches are legitimately available? It's one of the things like how there's a lot of LSU fans who maybe became disenchanted at the end of Mainieri's era. But I said this when he retired, and I'll say it again. Like, there can be coexisting realities. It can have been time to move on, to go in a different direction. But at the same time, like, you can still respect what Paul Mainieri did at LSU, which was incredible. He won a national championship, national runner-up, went to Omaha 5 times. Like, at any other program, I mean, literally any other program, if Paul Mainieri put up that resume over 15 years, national championship, national runner-up, 5 trips to Omaha, they're building a statue, and he is the greatest coach in the history of that program. He just happens to have been the coach where the greatest coach in the history of the game coached, in Skip Bertman. So, you can have been okay with moving on, but you also have to respect what that man did here for the length he did it. And so people from the outside are going to look in and go, man, a guy that won a championship, was a national runner-up, went to Omaha 5 times. I'll take that guy. It's better than what we have right now, where in 7 years or 6 seasons, we've missed the postseason twice and only gotten the 2 supers. Yeah, I can understand why that's appealing. Hey, Lowell, good morning from Cheyenne, Wyoming. Bubba Smith, Timothy Fontenot, Tiger Diver, Brett DeGrow, Trivia Carter, good morning. Rocky, do you know if Paul had expressed his desire with anyone near LSU to coach again? Yeah, I don't think Paul wanted to stop coaching when he retired. I think that was sort of a mutually agreed upon thing. Like, hey, it's time. How do you handle? Like, I'm not gonna say it was a forced retirement, but probably a mutually agreed upon thing. But the fact that he engaged in conversations with Miami and Notre Dame the past couple of years tells you he wanted to get back in. And I think that fire still burned. In the conversations that I had with him, it was clear that fire still burned in him to coach. Please smash the like button if you would. Subscribe to the channel. Facebook, like the Matt Moscona page, share the post. We appreciate y'all for being there. Hey, Dad, good morning. Craig, Matt, can we discuss the elephant in the room? It's been years y'all run the Pluckers ad on AFR. Something is quite puzzling. I can name that tune in 5 minutes? 5 notes. 5 notes. I can name that tune in 5 notes. Not 5 minutes. In 5 notes. 5 notes. Name that tune. You don't remember the show Name That Tune? Damon Gilmore. James McKinney. 5 notes, Craig. Craig, you should ask a long time ago. You could have gotten good sleep. Joe Sabatini, last couple of years, talent was horrible for LSU. Not exactly, Joe, and I'll tell you this. So that's another big misnomer. Paul Mainieri recruited and signed Dylan Cruz, Trey Morgan, Gavin Dugas, Braden Jobert, Hayden Travinsky. I mean, Milazzo. A lot of the guys that were core in that championship team were guys that Mainieri signed. So that's not true. The other part of it is they got dealt an awful hand with COVID, because if you remember, you were going to have Jaden Hill, who unfortunately blew out, and then Cole Henry, who was a freak show stud, SEC Pitcher of the Year caliber guy, who was a draft eligible sophomore. Season got shut down because of COVID, and then he signed. So that was just bad luck, the way that transpired there. So I fundamentally disagree with you saying the talent. I know that's the talent was horrible. Brother, you had Dylan Cruz and Trey Morgan and Gavin Dugas. I mean, all the guys I just mentioned that were guys that Mainieri signed. So, and look, I get it, man. Nolan Kane was a recruiting coordinator. Nolan did an awesome job putting those rosters together. But to say the talent was horrible is just wrong, because, I mean, Jade did a great job supplementing that roster a year ago. Of course, bringing in Tommy White. Of course, bringing in Paul Skeens. Of course, bringing in Thatcher Hurd. Yes, undeniably. And that was Jay's team. I'm not trying to say that was Paul's team. But if you're going to try to say that there was no talent and the talent was horrible, that's just wrong. I've heard fans say it, and it's just a dumb argument. It's just wrong. Justin, I don't think he really wanted to leave LSU. Lack of success in his past few years. Scott Woodward coming in played a role in forcing him out. I think there's truth to that. Yes. Spurge, good morning. Matt Plavidal, any info on Chandler Dorsey from UCF? Not UCF, USF, South Florida. And yes, Rooney that's the report, is that Terry Rooney's going with Paul Mainieri. So Chandler Dorsey, first commitment for LSU. By the way, if y'all hear over the weekend, I told you I'll expect a commitment earlier in the week, didn't I? Didn't I? Go back and watch Saturday, Sunday show. Go back on. When are we going to get commits? Told y'all early this week. Anyway, Chandler Dorsey, right-handed pitcher from South Florida, just finished up his second year, so this will be his draft year. And he was their primary closer. 26 appearances, 30 innings pitched, and 41 strikeouts, 16 walks, doing 3.60 ERA all off the top of my head. And, a guy that probably figures to be a back of the bullpen guy. And like we talk about how sometimes, guys who maybe struggle at LSU need to go down a level to get ABs and get reps. This is an instance where a guy did really good at South Florida for 2 years. And now it's like, okay, let me go up a level into the SEC and show scouts I can pitch at that level to increase draft stock. Gary, morning, Uncle Scone. Your thoughts on Mainieri, South Carolina? Does he have it to do a good job? Kind of have mixed feelings about it. Yeah, man. So that's kind of been the whole show here. Yeah, this is a better example. That's a better example. Brian, Lou Holtz going to South Carolina. Steve Spurrier going to South Carolina. Yes, better example. Much better example. Very good. Deborah Coward, Brent Germain, St. Germain, excuse me. Dave Bass, good morning. About to head up to Cali. Good for Coach. He gets to do what he wants. Irfan Sayad. Matt, if you miss it on those Jordan 1 speaker, Politics has them. Jason, which Jordans? Sorry, man. The ones I showed you yesterday? Yeah, but by the way, I'm not going to Politics, so not doing it. Ruckus is a sponsor. They're the only place that'll get my money. And candidly, I went into Politics like the first week I became really into sneakers, and they acted like they couldn't care less that I was in the store. It's one of the reasons I love Ruckus. So they actually, you walk in and they're glad to see you, and they're personable. I mean, they got a bunch of young people on staff, and they're great. They're respectful. They're helpful. They're engaging. So thank you for the heads up, Jason, but I will only go to Ruckus. Charlie, really surprised Hughes at K-State hasn't been mentioned for bigger jobs or even Lane Burroughs at Tech. Mainieri's a class act. Sent my family personal letters when my dad, an LSU baseball alum, passed away. It's Charlie. I mean, that's Paul. Oh, that's what I was going to tell you all a bit ago when I was telling you the story about when Coach and Karen would come to the Kelly Richmond Gala 1 year. So he would always give like this experience as the primary auction item, where it was like you could one of them was an LSU baseball experience. You sit in the dugout, be on the field pregame, throw out the first pitch, all that sort of stuff. And he would auction that off every year. Great experience. Then one, they did a dinner at Jubin's, not Jubin's, Mansur's. A dinner at Mansur's, and it was like a 5-course dinner, wine dinner pairing. Paul and Karen would be there, and he'd tell stories all night, et cetera, et cetera. And so 1 year, this was after he had retired. I bid on it and won it. And so I took my dad and my brother, who was at Notre Dame when Coach was the head coach of Notre Dame, and then my godparents, who were big LSU baseball fans, and my little nephew Eli, who a lot of y'all have met, is just a baseball nut. And we got to go sit down in a private room at Mansur's and have dinner with Coach and Karen, and probably sat there for 2 hours or more, and he just told every story you can imagine, and he's so engaging. Like I think y'all can tell, man. I think the world of him. I mean, I get there's a lot of I know I'm repeating myself, but like two things can be true. Paul did a great job at LSU, had an amazing run, and it was time to move on. Like both those things can be true, and I think that's the case. But on a personal level, he's among, if not my favorite coach that I ever covered at LSU for how he handles professionally and personally. Even when I was young and didn't deserve respect for anything I had done, he gave everybody professional courtesy. And I mean, in 2008, Josh Ennis and I were doing the fastest hour. And LSU had a walk-off win against Rice. Wasn't it Rice, the walk-off win in their opener in Omaha in 08? And I'm pretty sure it was Rice. And Josh and I watched the game. Then we were on air, and we just called Mainieri's cell phone, and he answered outside of Rosenblatt and came on the show with us just right after the game. I mean, we just took a shot. But that's who he was. That's who he is. So anyway, okay, y'all, my apologies. I know I missed a lot of you, and I'm sorry for that, but I got to go. I got an 8:30 downtown, so I got to get rolling. You can smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. As always, brought to you by Brock. If you need an orthopedist, Brock's the best. Remember, Brock Rock and Wine coming up July 27th at Tiger Stadium in the Stadium Club. Tickets at brortho.com. Great night, live music, food, great wine, all raising money for the Brock Foundation. I'll see you there July 27th. So buy your tickets. And Parish Construction and Roofing, parishbuilt.com. You need a roof, give us a shout. We'd love to give you that free, no obligation roofing inspection. Parishbuilt.com. Okay, y'all have an awesome day. We'll see you. Peace.